Thanks for the opportunity to present, Tony, and thank you to everyone at the Access Space Alliance. This is also apologies in advance for the background noise from my computer. I'm hoping it will calm down in a little bit. Just to give an introduction, really, to Commercial Space Technologies, the company I've been working in for the last 10 years. Right. To start off and go back to the beginning, we've been established for over 35 years. Started off as a consultancy to be catering to the insurance industry, and since then the company has grown this side of the business, and it still very much continues to this day. And I'll be going into more detail about the consultancy later in this presentation, so I'll skip past it for now. We're a UK company, and I'm actually speaking at the moment from the London office. However, we also have a representative office in Moscow with native Russian staff, and the other two boxes here, the red and green, show some of the activities that are mostly that side of CST and the Russian side are involved in. So launch brokerage is something that grew rather organically when we formed the Moscow office in '92. This is something where we as with most of the sort of services of CST, it wasn't something that we intended to initially do when we started, but we saw some customer requirements, and we sort of started pairing people together, and then where we are now is we can negotiate prices for customers, take them through the various contractual stages with the launch provider, and at the final end sort out logistics and help them through the campaign, the launch campaign at the final end. We also have management and trading. So Russia have a lot of interesting and unique aspects to their space industry, some of which is heritage from sort of the Soviet space programs of the past, and some is more shiny and recent. And so we've managed to facilitate some trade between Western and former Soviet and countries in Russia. And one example there is Canopus, and another example which isn't shown is reflectors for Galileo, which we helped bring in from Russia. This is just a brief overview of all of the launches that CST has been involved in. It's 19 so far, the last one being last year. This has totaled 82 satellites. However, my next slide will show that figure's a little bit misleading. This has included 5 different launch vehicles, and we've had experience from 4 different launch sites. This is a figure from a Euroconsult presentation a few years back. The data in this figure is almost certainly out of date by now. I know that we've launched things since then, and I know others in this pie chart have done the same. What it's really meant to demonstrate is where CST fits in terms of its launch brokerage amongst the other launch brokers. Whilst others like Innovative Solutions in Space, they focus on sort of accommodating several typically CubeSat and NanoSat customers into dispensers and packaging them into larger, sort of more manageable sizes for launch providers. CST, as it started a few years before most of these companies, when CubeSats didn't exist, we focus more on small satellites. That's not to say that CubeSats are completely off topic for us. Where we have supported individual CubeSat launches in the past, and we're in discussions with several people to do the same now. The focus of this presentation, however, won't be on launch, but will be on CST's consultancy side, and that's primarily because at the moment with the COVID virus, we're seeing a lot of uncertainty around launch schedules, and we know that a lot of our friends and colleagues across the world are experiencing challenges in integrating and bringing international teams together to for ICD missions and fit checks and the launch campaign itself. That's something that's quite challenging. So particularly for people who are launching in Russia at the moment, if they need any in-country support because their team is unable to go there physically, then perhaps we should talk and CST might be able to find some way to support that. Anyway, digging into the consultancy side, this is, as I said, part of CST that we've been going from the beginning, and we roughly manage about 20 projects a year. This has turned into quite a considerable volume of work. We have an archive of over 700 projects now, and that number is it's almost closer to 800 now. On this slide, it just gives some examples of the customers and the partners that we've worked with in the past, and some of which I'm pleased to see are actually on this call today. So looking forward to catching up with a lot of them over the course of the next few weeks. This is just a breakdown of some of the subjects that our consultancy covers. It can be roughly broken down into these 5 categories on the left. Some of the subjects are rather are quite hard to fit into one specific genre. So there's a sort of loose strategy category at the bottom there in purple. But starting with launcher technology and in red, and some of the stuff around markets. I mean, these are things that CST need to know for its launch brokerage side to keep us sharp and keep us competitive. So we look into this anyway for our own operations. So it's not too much of an extension to apply this knowledge and expertise to assist other people. So I pulled out a few of the most recent and some of the more interesting examples from our consultancy. The space technology side looks at things wide ranging from power transmission by laser through to radiothermal isotope generators, robotics, nuclear power modules. In terms of some of the applications for these things, we have assisted people on both sides of the investment discussions, both investors looking to understand more about some specific technology they're interested in investing in, whilst people who have that interest in tech who are trying to get sort of impartial reports to support their own pitch have also used some of our reports. Internal planning, a lot of the government customers that we've had have used our reports for various sort of internal strategy discussions, and as well as assessing competition, both commercial and also again within governments, and also assessing risk on the insurance side. This is really how we started, is looking how risks can be mitigated across the space industry, as well as looking at loss adjustment as well. So digging into a few more examples, we have the World Launcher Review, which I've put here because it was a nice collaboration between ourselves and another UK company called Ceradata. They have quite a nice commercially available database. To my knowledge, probably the best database out there for satellites and now launch vehicles. And this project was an opportunity for CST to sort of condense a lot of its information from its archives and come out with a pretty concise compendium of all of the launch vehicles that are currently operating. it is a few years since we updated this though, but it's still available if anyone's interested. Importing small Chinese launch vehicles to operate from the UK. I've included this just because it elicited a minor diplomatic incident when we did it. It was under a Innovate UK grant, and it was a feasibility study looking at importing a Chinese vehicle to be operated by an exclusively UK team to get past some of the ITAR restrictions that those Chinese vehicles would experience when they try and cater to international customers domestically. However, we ran into the final conclusions were that because of MPCR, it wasn't feasible, unfortunately. Markets, as I mentioned before, this is something that we've looked at several times now, and the first time was in the mid-2000s for DARPA. This was something that was for DARPA to understand how the Falcon 1 launch vehicle that they had some stakes in was going to perform in the market. Since then, we've been commissioned to do similar studies for launch vehicles in the UK, and the front cover is a little bit sparse, so I've given an extract from somewhere in the middle of this report on the right, which shows the capturable market for forecast for the next 10 years for this specific vehicle that I can't mention. But this we then translate it eventually in this report into the number of attainable launches that this vehicle could achieve in this capturable market. Again, this is one of the more popular ones that we're finding recently. This is just a bit of analysis that we did for
Alan, 1 minute left, please.
Okay, I'll speed up a little bit. So this is just to show that the analysis that we do is quite broad, and this was something that we did with some proprietary modelling. A few people in the UK and in the world that can do this. I know that the good people at Deimos UK and Phil have their own way of methods of assessing trajectories as well. Anyway, just in the final minute, a report that has received a lot of interest is our European Spaceport Review. It's a hot topic at the moment. The first was commissioned in 2017 by a UK customer. It's been commissioned several times since then, now by other customers in Europe. If people are interested in finding out more about the findings of this report, then there was this year's spring issue of Room. We did an article which covers a lot of the findings. These are some of the nations that this report covers, some of which are still very much advanced in their undertaking to develop the spaceport. Others have unfortunately fallen away for various reasons. Each nation has a chapter dedicated to their spaceport endeavour, and the whole report in total is several hundred pages. So we try and condense all of this, and we look at over 70 variables for each nation. We try and condense all of this information through various sort of open source statistical methods, as well as some proprietary formulas, into a traffic light analysis. And this is just an example of the first page from the 2018 edition. This analysis extends for about 7 pages, and it shows sort of a side-by-side comparison. And we have some controls on the right here from New Zealand and the US, some that are already in operation, to give some context. Anyway, that's everything for now.